Okay.
Hi, Will. Thank you so much for joining me today at the Salt Art Gallery. As you know, you and I are good friends, and you called me one day, and I think I was driving, and you told me, Carla, have you heard about NFTs?
Yes.
I was like, no, I haven't. But you were starting to explain it to me, and after that one conversation, it has come up in so many conversations. So I said, please come to the gallery, talk to me on camera, because I'm sure if I don't know much about it, I'm sure a lot of people don't know about it. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us.
Yeah, I usually try to stay on the front end of stuff.
Yes.
I saw it coming. I saw what was going to happen, and that's when I had to call you and go, Carla, you have got to start getting into NFTs. I'm telling you, your artists are going to start asking you for it.
Okay.
So a year later, year and a half later almost,
Yes,
we're here.
we're talking about it. Because sometimes I hear something for the first time and I have to sit on it. And then if it keeps coming back up, then I'll say, okay, it's time for me to learn more.
Yes.
So please tell me, how did you come about knowing about it?
Well, I've been following, blockchain technology, which is what NFTs are built on, for some time. I'd say since about 2016 or so. Did some investments in cryptocurrency, and did well in certain areas. And when I started looking at kind of the technologies around blockchain, not just cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that, but I started looking at all the technologies that's coming around it.
Yes.
Kind of what I call the satellite technologies, and this was one of the ones. There's things like DeFi that was really blowing up, just about 2 years ago, or a year and a half, actually about a year ago now. And saw NFTs growing, and I tried to just do a little research and understand, okay, how is this going to affect us in the future? Because blockchain is a technology of the future, and I just kind of fell in love with it because understanding kind of the real world use case scenarios, I saw, okay, this is going to be really important. That's how I came across it.
Got it. So from an artist perspective, or dealer perspective, why is that important to us?
Well, from a artist and an art dealer perspective.
Yes.
Number one, it's important because what you have is you have now a digital version of what's really happening in the real world.
Okay.
So art assets are now being digitized. So it's the same concept as what's happening in the real world. You have a unique piece of art.
Okay.
Right?
Like this painting behind us.
Like this painting behind us.
Okay.
Amazing painting, by the way.
Thank you.
And this artist here has created this. He owns this until he sells it.
Yes.
When he sells it, that person has purchased an asset that holds a value.
Yes.
Okay, and no one can copy this actual piece of art, this physical piece of art.
Exactly.
They can try to copy, but I'm sure there's ways
Yes,
the dealer
they're not
knows
supposed to.
what the original is.
Sure.
Well, that's what NFTs are basically doing. The exact same thing, but on a digital level.
Okay.
They're saying, hey, there's an owner, there's a asset that has a unique identifier, and only one person owns that asset at a time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that's how I knew this was going to be very important for the dealers and for the artists.
Okay.
On the artist standpoint, why it's important is there's an opportunity for artists to not only kind of adopt new technology, but also on the financial side, on an income standpoint, there's a way for artists to really monetize NFTs as well with their art, and we'll talk about that.
Okay, great. So basically, this is the original, and it's going to be assigned a quote-unquote serial number.
You can call it, it's a good word for it,
Yes, for a better use of terms.
Yes.
And then when that person owns that asset, it is digital, and they keep a file on their phone, computer. Where is it in the universe of digital?
Yes. So NFTs have several components.
Okay.
One of the components is the metadata, which is the actual image itself.
Okay.
So there is a metadata that's kept on servers on the network, the Ethereum network.
Okay.
And that's where the actual content of what that image is, or GIF, it could be a GIF as well, that's stored.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. So these are people truly interested in maybe more so value of what it's worth, and not necessarily, like, we're visual, so we enjoy looking and observing. Sometimes digital might take away from the original. So many artists may feel, well, it's not as good. Or do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree and I disagree.
Okay.
Okay. I agree with that, what you just said exactly, but I disagree with the understanding of the digital versus physical. I want to kind of explain that. So, what I agree with is, yes, I'm the same way. I would appreciate a physical piece of art a lot more than a digital piece of art.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, there's so many ways to explain why.
Yes.
So But the understanding of the physical and digital, they don't have to be separated 100%. And that's
Okay.
where I think some of the misconception is with NFTs, or from an artist standpoint. They look at an NFT and they say, well, wait a minute, I hand paint things, I hand draw things. So why am I gonna now take this, deduce it to just a digital image, and now the physical image is kind of goes by the wayside? And that's not exactly the case. You
Okay.
can couple the two. So, and this is where I think you can get creative. Artists can be creative, and dealers can be creative. Any physical piece of art can also be assigned a digital NFT
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
So I think that's where artists, want to start collaborating the digital and the physical. Is to say, okay, we have a physical piece of art. When you purchase, this is a potential. When you purchase the physical art, it can come with an NFT
Okay.
as well. And
Right.
you can, but of course, you want to assist the buyer, because not all
Okay.
buyers are knowledgeable about how to purchase NFTs.
Right.
And we'll talk about that. So you can really merge both of those
Okay.
two that have to be exclusive, only
Yeah.
digital and only.
I appreciate that, because non-digital, a lot of times we sell art and we give something called a certificate of authenticity. So basically, anyone down the line that buys that painting, well, how do I know that Romeo Robinson is the artist that created this? How do I know it's an original Romeo's work, as opposed to somebody on the side of the street fake that and then try to say, I have one of his pieces and you need to buy it from me? So is that a good way of just proving that the art is made by that artist?
I don't think the digital authenticity of a physical piece of artwork, I don't think that will be replaced by NFTs. But an NFT has digital authenticity built into
Okay.
NFTs.
Okay.
So yes, the physical will still have its own, I would recommend, still
Got
have
it.
its own physical,
Got And we spoke earlier, but you said there's a benefit of the artist possibly, if that piece is sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, that artist might actually still get a piece of
Yes.
that sale?
Yes.
Okay.
So NFTs are primarily built on the Ethereum network, or
Okay.
Ethereum, which is also a cryptocurrency.
Mhm.
But Ethereum is thought of more as like a supercomputer.
Mhm.
And I want to step in there real quick and just say blockchain, because people hear blockchain, they think, okay, this is just a bunch of crazy stuff,
Right.
technical jargon stuff. And the simplest way to think of, one simple way to think of blockchain is this. It is a network of computers
Okay.
that all agree, they all come to a consensus to make sure a piece of information is correct.
Oh,
Okay? So that's, there's many ways to explain blockchain, but it's the way my mind works when I when I think of blockchain, because when you look at all the hype around it and say, okay, all these people are so excited about it, and they're saying it's so secure, and what is all this about? Well, what it's about is it's a ton of computers.
Okay.
That's all networked together. They're called nodes. That's networked together, and they all agree on every transaction. So if all of those computers don't agree, that transaction doesn't happen.
Oh,
It's
wow.
invalid.
Okay.
So that's kind of a general view of kind of the way to look at blockchain. So if you take that and apply it to NFTs, then you can say, okay, if I've got a unique asset here, and this asset is assigned, just to this painting right here. I know it's unique because all the computers agree that this is unique, and I own it.
Yes.
Now there's a piece of code that can be built into that NFT called a smart contract. And in that smart contract, there can be royalties that can be assigned to the original owner, or who should be, I would think, the artists
Yes.
themselves.
Yes.
So this is kind of what excited me about it. Really wanted to make sure that artists, adopted this technology.
Okay.
Today, if I'm the artist of this painting and I sell this piece, whatever I sell it for, that's
it.
all I've received on
Right.
that piece.
Right.
If I had this and I had a digital NFT of this piece, anytime that digital NFT piece moved, transacted from one seller to another buyer, then that I could get a royalty automatically. And the software is built into the software, so I get a royalty automatically.
Okay.
Yes.
And who sets the price of what the NFT is worth? The owner of the asset?
Yes. Well, initially it would be the owner of the asset.
Okay.
But the market ultimately, it's just
Sure.
like real
With
art.
anything. The
market's
market
gonna tell
will
you.
judge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we mentioned, and you can say when we have a chance, there's certain sites to actually create the NFT. So I log in, I create a password, I may connect it to a bank account, and then am I just saying, this work of art, here's the name of it, here's the picture I took of it, upload it, and then pay my money, whatever that fee is, and it's an NFT?
A few more steps, but,
okay.
that's about what it is.
Okay.
So 2 marketplaces, they're your marketplaces for NFTs. OpenSea and Rarible are your 2 most popular marketplaces. Rarible is a very nice platform, easy to use. You can create NFTs on Rarible as well. And yes, there is a fee that you pay to create
Per
that.
NFT or a subscription fee?
Per NFT.
Per NFT,
Yes.
okay. How much are we estimating?
Per NFT, you're talking maybe in the, let's say $7 to $12.
That's not
Ethereum
bad.
gas fees are
Yeah.
called gas fees.
Okay.
There's it
Sure.
fluctuates over time, but let's
Okay.
say $7 to $10, $12.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I wasn't sure if it was a lot higher than that. And then are there fees on transacting each time as well too?
Yes, because keep in mind, there's this network of computers,
Yes.
these nodes that are all doing kind of the heavy lifting to confirm that whatever transaction happens is authentic.
Okay.
So there's a fee associated with that information traveling from network to network, or node to node.
Okay.
So yes, there is a small fee. Any transaction you do on blockchain, there's going to be a fee.
Okay,
some
got
sort
it.
of fee.
And crazy scenario, zombie apocalypse happens, the servers go down. Have I lost my NFT?
It's a good question.
Okay.
And the reason it's a good question is because there's 2 separate components. You've got the NFT, which has the address of the identifier for that object, whatever it is. I'd say the likelihood of you losing that is no. That
Greater
wouldn't
than the
happen.
zombie apocalypse?
Greater than the zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
One of those zombies will be able to operate a server somewhere.
Got it.
But I don't want to. We're talking zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
So
I want
in
to make sure it's
that
extreme.
case, then could there be a potential for the image to detach from the identifier?
Okay.
There could be a potential for that.
Okay.
I'd always say that anytime an artist is going to get into this, always talk to a professional first.
Yes.
Here's a cool thing though. Once you work with a professional, work with somebody who can help you generate your NFTs and help you kind of go through that whole process. It's not something you can't do on your own. If you think about old websites like MySpace and just all the old days and stuff, like there were a little bit of code we had to do sometimes to make a picture bigger and things like that. So there's a little bit you'll have to do and understand about creating NFTs, but it's not something that's designed for artists to not be able to do it. It's something that, to take a small learning curve, and artists will be able to upload their own NFTs and manage their own NFTs. Or this might also be an area where, dealers get involved and say, hey, we can assist in that process as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one controversy about the art world, sometimes there's a lot of secrecy. So I'm a billionaire and I don't want anyone to know what my assets are. Can those people stay private, or does everyone know what everyone has? What's up with the private, if you want to be private or you don't want to be private?
If you want to be a private NFT owner.
Yes.
Okay. So, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in that if your name is Bill Gates,
Yes.
then you, as your NFT, let's say, profile doesn't have to use the name Bill Gates.
Okay.
So in that case, yes, it can be private. But if you purchase something worth, a couple $1 million, and someone sees who that user is and that address or that user is, they could potentially, track the.
Oh, I see.
And here's the thing about NFTs. NFTs, each transaction is recorded. So there's some transparency there about each transaction.
Okay.
So if you bought a painting or an NFT for, let's say, $500, okay, last month, and then you sold it next month for, $1,000. And then a month from there, somebody tries to sell that exact same thing for $20,000.
Okay.
The good thing about having some transparency there,
Yes.
you can see that the buyer can see that history.
Oh, I see.
And you can't hide that history. You want to be able to see that history to keep things authentic.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. I love transparency, but I do know in my industry there are some times that people don't want that for whatever reason. So that's very interesting.
Yes.
What, as a newbie, what would you say someone should be careful of getting involved or watch out for?
watch out for. First, educate yourself, of course. Do as much
Yes.
research as you can.
Yes.
Work with a professional that you trust.
Right.
First,
Mhm.
and there's lots of people that do it by the gig. You can
Mhm.
find, just check what their certifications are. The people that have a history in creating NFTs. Start there. So things you want to watch out for is, for example, smart contracts, which is that little bit of code that's embedded into an NFT,
Okay.
certain NFTs. So you want to know if there's any smart contract already built into your NFT.
Okay.
Okay, and that would, in a bad case, worst case scenario, someone could create an NFT for you, but then they set up their own kind of backdoor.
Little backdoor.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And
That means they have a little ownership on your NFT. What's the purpose of
or
that
they
backdoor?
could make a little money every time
I
it
see.
transacts
Sure.
versus you,
Oh, I
making
see.
that royalty on it.
Okay.
So that's something to just keep in mind. This whole blockchain stuff, it's still new.
Yes.
We're
yes.
still in the very early
When did
stages
this
of
start?
it.
Is this like a early 2000s? Is it?
Yeah, 2013.
2013.
Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere in that
Very new.
ballpark. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's
okay.
not very old, and it's kind of been a wild, wild west a little bit.
Yes.
They're starting to. I'm sure there's legislation already. They're talking
Getting
about certain
started,
things
sure.
to regulate it, but it's pretty open. So the biggest thing is, if there's a community that you can join locally,
Okay.
if there's any sort of meetups you can join to get to know like-minded people and be able to talk about the technology, because it's like a rabbit hole. There's so many jargon,
Okay.
technical terms that you can get lost in, and you want to have some sort of circle that you can talk to kind of explain stuff really, however it works for you to
Okay.
understand it.
Okay.
Get involved in a community to
Sure.
understand and work with a professional and educate yourself is the first way to say
Okay.
it.
So
Yeah.
you personally learning about it, getting involved, your overall experience, how has it been for you?
NFTs or just blockchain?
Both.
Blockchain has been very interesting. I don't, to me, it's not. I don't think this is something that's going to take over the world and it's going to be the most amazing thing in the world
Okay.
forever. I don't see it that way.
Okay.
I see it as it's cool technology. I see advantages to it. I see disadvantages to it.
Okay.
NFTs, though, I see a little differently.
Okay.
I don't agree with some of the crazy valuations of certain NFTs that you've
Sure.
heard in the headlines and sold
Okay.
for millions of dollars.
Yeah,
and
somebody had a pair of socks
crypto
and
punk
it was like
socks and
$50,000.
stuff like that, yes.
Sure.
But keep this with the socks. I'm glad you brought that up, because with that project, it was the first time that there was a physical and a digital coupled together.
Okay.
So when you bought the NFT, you can go and get your physical socks if you want.
Okay.
But then you got rid of the NFT, which was kind of odd.
Okay.
But anyhow, there's a lot of things that they're doing now that's kind of trial and error.
Mhm.
So we are in the early stages. But the one thing I was going to say about NFTs, though, I think it's very interesting because the idea of giving something physically in the physical world a digital unique identifier,
Sure.
that's going to be with us for a long time. That's not just art, in so many other areas.
Okay.
So that's why this whole NFT thing is important. I see it as a real good thing.
Crazy. I'm a big sci-fi lover, so of course I think of the craziest things could people possibly be having digital prints.
People, how about marriage certificates? Marriage certificates could be given a unique digital identifier.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many things.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything
Interesting.
could be given a unique digital identifier. Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, thank you for speaking with us. Is there anything else you feel like a new person should know before we sign off? Is there anything that you feel is important? Okay, we covered.
No,
we did a pretty good job.
just educate yourself.
Educate yourself,
Get to
yes.
know as much about NFTs as you can.
Okay.
If you're an artist,
When
or
you say
you're,
educate yourself, where's some places we can go to? You did mention the memberships or some groups. I'm sure there's like Facebook groups and stuff like that. But where are there any maybe books we could find, or is it too new that no one's written any books about it?
No.
Okay.
There are plenty of books about it.
Okay.
Where to? I couldn't tell you exactly where to go
Sure.
for each individual, because everybody has their own areas. But there are such things called white papers.
White
And
papers.
white papers on Ethereum.
Okay.
And it's going to be one of those tough reads.
Okay.
But here's the thing, if you're investing your time to understand something for the long run,
Yes.
you may only get a few things out of the complicated stuff, but you're
Sure.
getting something out of it. So look up the white papers for Ethereum so you understand, because that's really the primary platform that NFTs are built on. So
Okay.
I like to always start with the foundation of everything.
Okay.
Start with the basics and then kind of build up from there. And then join groups. Just join groups that are in a group where you can have a voice and you
Okay.
can ask questions, is what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for listening in. This has been a great conversation. I'm excited. I am going to start the research. We are not telling you to do this. We're telling you to research it because we feel like it's, something to look into. And I'm so glad that you told me about it and that we're having this conversation today.
Awesome.
Good. Okay, cheers.
All right.
All
Cheers.
right. Good. Okay.